Happy. There we go.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, now you know. Our guest this evening is Dr. Dolly Dastoor. Today, she's going to be speaking to us on behalf of ZONTA International and working for women's rights to end violence. Dr. Dastoor is now retired from her position as assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry and co-director of the program for dementia with psychiatric comorbidity in the Mo Levin Center at the Douglas Mental University. She's also was a member of the McGill Center for the Studies in Aging. Dolly was born in India and has spent the first 10 years of her career in Nigeria working on projects for both the World Health Organization and the Rockefeller Foundation. In 1973, she arrived in Canada and joined the Douglas as a research fellow in geriatrics and was later hired as a clinical psychologist. ZONTA International is a leading global organization of professionals empowering women worldwide through service and advocacy. Over the last 15 years, ZONTA has helped 700,000 women and girls through its international service initiatives, contributing US $2.4 million for women over 20 countries through projects implemented in conjunction with United Nations agencies. The ZONTA Club of Montreal offers support to several local shelters and centers that help women and children. They organize programs to provide service to women, they advocate for women, and they sensitize the public on pertinent issues. They bestow scholarships, bursaries, and awards annually to young women displaying leadership skills in the education, STEM, business, and medical fields. We're delighted to have you back again, Dr. Dastoor, and I'll give you the floor. For the rest of the audience, don't be shy and note down your questions and comments for after Dr. Dastoor's presentation, and I'm sure that we'll have lots of questions for her. It's all yours.
Yeah, now I have to share my screen, which I don't know what to do.
It's down at the bottom. You see
yeah, but I don't have that. The thing I have my original. Well, how do I get back to the Zoom? Okay, I've got it. I've got it now.
Okay. Little blue icon.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting me today. And you gave all the statistics for what I was going to talk about, Mr. President. So I think my work has become very easy. But I want to ask you, how many of you over here present today have heard of ZONTA? I mean, everybody has heard of Rotary, but I don't know how many of you have heard of ZONTA, because ZONTA for a long, long time has been the best kept secret. Nobody, whenever we talk about ZONTA, nobody knows about us. So I'm very glad that you've invited me today to give you some little glimpse of what ZONTA is all about. ZONTA is a service organization just like Rotary, and when I was doing a little bit of research, I was very interested to see that ZONTA was based on the principles of Rotary when it was established in 1919, that you have to be one person of one business organization or one classification. So that's the story of with ZONTA, the connection between ZONTA and Rotary. But ZONTA itself is a Sioux Indian word of the Lakota tribe people, meaning honesty and trustworthy. People always ask me, what does ZONTA stand for? That is what ZONTA stands for. And it's not an acronym of anything, it's a real word. So as I said, it's an international service organization with a mission of advancing the status of women through service and advocacy. And because of that, we have now consultative status with the Council of Europe, with the Council of UN Economic and Social Council, and we have representatives at the UN in New York, in Geneva, and in Vienna. So it's very active internationally. It was called as we said, it was founded in 1919 in Buffalo, New York, and it was originally called ZONTA Confederation. And the first ZONTA convention was held in Syracuse in New York in 1921. And the national headquarters in Chicago, Illinois, opened in 1928. And it became international with the addition of Canadian clubs. It was Toronto and Montreal when they joined us in 1929, and the first European clubs joined in 1930, and that is when it became ZONTA International, because there were now international people joining. The ZONTA Club of Montreal itself was chartered in 1929. That is 10 years later than it was, the whole ZONTA movement was established. And it's one of the oldest clubs in the world, outside of the United States, of course. For all these years, the members have worked tirelessly to improve the status of women and to help them achieve their rightful place in the Montreal society and worldwide. In the early days of the club, it helped the physically challenged women and men also, and sick children with hands-on projects. The clubs was a bit larger at those days, and we were quite a few people, so we were able to take these people on trips and hire a bus or charter a bus and take them different places and different shopping centers to help them. But now with the clubs being smaller and shrinking, we have encouraged more and more programs for educational. We said try to sensitize the young women to the needs of public life by assuming leadership roles in the community and to assist local shelters for women, because we are fewer and so we are more intense. Our work is more intense. So each international, and we have a conventions every 2 years. So each international, at that time, each international president presents their own international service projects in conjunction with UNICEF. This year, of course, there was no in-face, person-to-person conference, but we had a Zoom convention. The projects which were approved were the adolescent girls' health and protection in Peru. Second one was Learn Madagascar, empowering girls through education, gender equity, classroom constructions with latrines. Because it was found that in Madagascar, 1 in 4 children aged 6 to 10 do not attend any primary school. And 1 in 3 children between 11 to 14 do not attend lower secondary school. So the education level in Madagascar for children is very low. And when we know that the education is low, it has what ramifications in the life later on, in social life, in economic status, in the standing up and empowerment of the girls and children. There's a lot of ramification with poor education. The third project, which was approved at the International Convention, was Global Program to End Child Marriage and to promote the rights of adolescent girls. Now, a little later, I'll show you more statistics about the problems with early child marriage, what happens. The fourth one was to help gender-based violence of survivors in the Pacific regions. So these were the 4 main projects which are funded by clubs all around the world. And we are 1,200 clubs in 63 countries. And we all chip in with projects, with fundraisers, which we give it to the international, as well as we levy ourselves, and each club levies itself to have some donations to the international, which is a heavy duty stuff. But our signature program was started in 2012. And the signature annual campaign is ZONTA Says No to Violence Against Women. Because violence against women is a very, what should I say, things which is so ingrained in society that is very difficult to deal with it. And so we have this ZONTA Says No to Violence Against Women, and we have declared the 10 days of activism between November the 25th and December the 10th November the 25th of each year is the day for the elimination of violence against women. And December the 10th is the International Day for Human Rights. So those 16 days in between have been declared by ZONTA International and by the United Nations as 16 days of activism against gender violence, which is the most pervasive and least recognized of human rights violations worldwide, which affects women and girls of every race, every class, every culture, every ethnicity, all ages in every country. And gender equality is not only a basic right, but its achievement has enormous socioeconomic ramifications. Empowering women fuels thriving economies, spurring productivity and growth, yet gender equalities remain deeply entrenched in every society. Women lack access to decent work and face occupational segregation and gender wage gaps. They're too often denied access to basic education and healthcare. So there's some statistics on violence is that violence against women takes many forms. It can be in domestic violence, it's trafficking, it's female genital mutilation, and violence during conflict. And the price of violence is astonishing. 70% of women have experienced physical and or sexual violence from an intimate partner in their lifetime. I once saw a very, very effective poster in Sweden, which was a big poster with a man on the face of the man there. And they said that this could be your father or your mother, or your father or your brother or your uncle, and he could be violating a woman in your intimate family. In 2012, of all women who are victims of homicide globally, 50% were killed by intimate partners or family members. Whereas in the same period, only 6% of men were killed in the same year. 50% as opposed to 6%. That's a terrible statistics. And on top of that, 1 in 10 women in the European Union have experienced cyber harassment, which is very common over here too, since age 15, including unwanted, offensive, sexual, explicit emails or SMS messages, or offensive, inappropriate advance on social media. And at least 200 million women and girls alive today have undergone female genital mutilation in 30 countries, and most of these girls are under the age of 5. And we think that this happens only in backward countries or in underdeveloped countries or in Africa. It may be happening there, but it also happens right here in Canada and in the US. And the doctors have been apprehended for that and have been penalized. And let me give you a little statistics about the second project, which we have internationally this year, is ending early childhood marriages. In 2012, globally, 750 million women and girls alive were married before their 18th birthday. Those of us who have daughters and granddaughters, can you imagine this? And 250 million girls were married before their 15th birthday. 15th birthday, which is, they're still a young teenager, much against their will. And this results, early childhood marriages results in early pregnancy, social isolation, interrupted schooling, increased risk of domestic and sexual violence. And this early pregnancy has a very severe, major effect on the health of the child, or it's almost a child, a girl, because their physically body is not developed to have a pregnancy or a birth. And so what happens is when they give birth, the birth canal between the anal canal and the urethral breaks, it ruptures, and there is a leakage. and which that leakage gives a very awful smell. So the husband does not want them, the family does not want them, and so they're ostracized, and there is a social isolation, and there's a trauma on them. And that was one of the other projects, which not in this biennium, but in the previous bienniums, which was to end the fistula pandemic, which was rampant in Ethiopia, in those places. So early child marriage is very, very severe. And since 2014, ZONTA has contributed $2 million US dollars to delay early marriage in Niger. And they partnered with UNICEF USA and with UNFPA, which is the family planning organization of the UN, in Bangladesh, in Burkina Faso, in Ethiopia, in Ghana, in India, in Mozambique, Uganda, Sierra Leone, Nepal, Niger, Yemen, Zambia, to prevent early marriage. So you see a lot of countries have early marriages. And globally, 600 adolescent girls continue to face huge challenges to access their right to education. 130 million girls are still out of school because of menstruation taboos, and they're not allowed to go to school during menstruation, and being required, or they're being held back and required to help with domestic chores in impoverished homes. There's no other help. So the girls are allowed to help, whereas the boys are allowed to go to school. And there's been lots of cases where even if the girls are allowed to go, they're harassed on the way, the schools are far away, they're not in the same area where they're living. And so there's a lot of social problems for girls going to school. And this adds up to lost opportunities and broken dreams, because even girls have dreams of doing something or achieving something in the world or in their life. And without education, it's very, very difficult to do any of those things. So poverty, gender inequality, and pervasive patriarchy are some of the major barriers for girls' education. And so we need to attack this lack of education for girls on these different levels. This gender inequality between boys and girls, between the poverty levels in the families, so that the girls are prevented from going to school, either by they cannot afford to pay the fees, or they need either another domestic help in the house or in the fields. And pervasive patriarchy. When there's a patriarchy where they said that the girls are to be kept at home, they're not to be educated because they're going to get married and go away anyway. So what's the use of educating them? So that's the pervasive. And some religions also bar the girls from going to school or attaining education, as we've seen in Afghanistan, and where Malala was, and in Pakistan, where Malala was, Yusuf was fighting for that cause. And so what ZONTA has been doing is been putting in their money and putting in their efforts in expanding opportunities for girls and women through our international education programs. Because we feel that education is the key to improving the status of women. And women's rights are human rights. And so the education is one of the fundamental rights of women and girls to have education. And in the last 100 years, because this year we celebrated our 100th anniversary, ZONTA has provided more than 45.9 million US dollars to empower women to access education. So what are the scholarships which ZONTA International has set up? The first one was set up was the Amelia Earhart Fellowship for Aerospace Sciences. Now, as we all know, Amelia Earhart was a very famous aviatrix who crossed the Atlantic solo, and then she got lost somewhere. Nobody has yet found it. But so in her, and she was a member of ZONTA. And so ZONTA established a fellowship for her, for girls going into non-traditional sciences, especially aerospace sciences. So 35 fellowships of $10,000 US, and 400 women from 57 countries have profited from that, totaling 1.3 million US dollars. Then the next innovative scholarship, which was started on an experimental basis, but now is going to be permanent, is Women in Science and Technology. There we have 6 international scholarships of 8,000 US dollars, and 32 district scholarships, because there are 32 districts in the ZONTA world, and because each district would have one scholarship of $2,000 US. Then we feel that women and women are not well representative in government machinery. There is not enough people on the higher echelon in government. And so we established what we call the Young Women in Public Affairs Award. And I was the first chair for that award when it was established. We got 10 international awards of $4,000 US to women, to ages between 16 and 19. This scholarship is for high school students. And 232 district awards of $1,500. Since it was established in 1990, we have 930 awards that were given out to 1,750 to 788 young women in 58 countries. So it's very widespread, and we hope that more and more girls go into this. Now, these are international scholarships, but this young women, and you can also have that scholarship as your local scholarship. So the Montreal Club also has this scholarship. You see that later. And another scholarship is in the name of Jane Klausman. She was the parliamentarian for ZONTA International. And when she died, she left a big bequest to ZONTA. All her money was left to ZONTA. And they and she was a business person. So a scholarship was set up in business scholarship for 6 international scholarships of $8,000 and 32 district scholarships of $2,000 each. And that's very popular. So now we just looked at the international scholarships. Now what we're going to look at is the Montreal scholarships. In Montreal, what we have is a Jean M. Kuhn Humanitarian Award, which is also the Irene Neri Community Service Award. Because Irene Neri was a ZONTA Montreal member. Jean M. Kuhn was the district member. And so Irene Neri was a volunteer who served the Montreal community with all her volunteer work in different shelters. She was wonderful. So we named the award after her, and the award is worth $500 and it's given out to a high school student who works in volunteer work and organizational work in the community. Now, this award was started with a small sum of $200. All the ones we now see are $500 each. They were all started with small sums of $250, but we applied for a grant from CN, and we were very fortunate enough for CN to recognize our importance of education, and they gave us a grant, for a substantial grant, by which we were able to increase the amounts, double the amount for all these scholarships. So the volunteer work scholarship in the community is worth $500. Then we have a Marjorie Smith Bursary Scholarship in nursing. Now, Marjorie Smith was also a member of ZONTA Montreal, and she always had a fascination, or she wanted to be a nurse, and she was not able to achieve that aim. So when she died, her employers gave a matching sum of what she donated, and we were able to set up a Marjorie Smith Bursary in nursing. And that is made through the MUHC. We send out applications, and they send out applications on our behalf, and somebody, the girls, or the nurses always apply, and they are girls or nurses who want to go back into retraining themselves, who have single mothers, who have been nurses but not been able to finish their education because X, Y, and Z reasons. So this award is given to that particular nurse on the recommendation of the MUHC. And that award is for $1,500. Then we have in Montreal what we call the Funnel Wernicke Scholarship for Maths and Science. Marjorie Funnel and Hans Wernicke were 2 members. Well, Marjorie was the member of ZONTA Funnel, but Hans Wernicke was the wife of one of our ZONTA members, who was also the president of ZONTA Montreal. And when they died, very close to each other at times, and they were both in science. One was in physics and one was in mathematics, I think. And so we set up a scholarship in their honor. and we called it the Funnel Wernicke Scholarship for Maths and Science, and that is also worth $500. Then we have one, I'm going to step one down, is the Young Women in Public Affairs, which is the same thing as the International Scholarship, but this is now at the local level, and that's $500. Then the Rotary Club through Beryl with and her St. Agathe Club over there, Rotary Club, they volunteered, came forward after the presentation was made to them. They came forward to say that they want to set up a scholarship combined with ZONTA for STEM education for in their area, to give out a scholarship in their area, and we called it the Rotary ZONTA Scholarship. So that's, thank you very much, Rotary, for that. And then we have a June Mitchell bursary for continuing education. June Mitchell, I don't know if people know of her. She was a volunteer. She did a lot of work for women's empowerment and a lot of work for women who were abused and who are in shelters. And she started a program called Women Aware. And when she died, very suddenly, ZONTA collected some money and we set up an award to give to a woman who is recommended by that Women Aware organization, who has not been able to complete her education, who has been a victim of family or domestic abuse, and who is helpless at the moment to go back to school, so that will help her to continue her education and get into a profession or get into a vocation which would help to set up her life and her children if she has any. So these are the scholarships which we have in the local level. So what we do is at the beginning of every school year, we send out an application, we sent out a notification to all the school boards in Montreal and in the West Island and Montreal, asking them for their girls, to get these girls to submit their applications, because there's an application form for the Jeanam Kuhn, there's an application form for the Young Women in Public Affairs, and there's an application form for the Funnel Wernicke Scholarship. So they fill in those applications and they have to write a small essay on that as to what is the importance of the scholarship. And they have to be refereed by two people who talk to us or tell us about their potential for winning this scholarship and what they're going to do with this scholarship. And then when we vet it, we have a panel of judges. We vet the scholarship, the applications, and then the winner is given, the award is given at the school distributions programs. And when we have an awards dinner or awards lunch, now we have, because we've changed from dinner to lunch, we have an award lunch in November where we invite all the award winners and we introduce them to the club members who are there and to the guests who are present and to the school principals who come, and the girls make a little presentation and they're wonderful. I'll show you a picture of these girls if I have it. Yes, these are the winners of the awards last year, which we did it on Zoom because we couldn't do it on person. And so this is from the nursing bursary from the MUHC. This is the Young Woman in Public Affairs. This is the Amelia Earhart. We had two Amelia Earhart winners from Montreal, and Jeanam Kuhn Award winner and the Funnel Wernicke Maths and Science Award. Now, you must be wondering, how do we raise funds for all these things? I mean, we're a very small club. We're about, I think, now we've got 2 people who are not well, so there's dropping out. We're about 15 people in the club, and we managed to raise all these funds. We have all these programs. We do these different things. We levy ourselves. Our fees are very modest, but we still levy ourselves. And then we have some programs where we had, I don't have a slide for that, but we had a cooking session where the chief chef from the Mount Stevens Club which is now named something else, gave a demonstration, and we charged people, and that was very highly successful. Then we have what do we call it? Gym, not a gym, it's not a gym, it's called the health day. And so we have a yoga teacher, and we have a Reiki teacher, and we have somebody from nutrition who gives a little talks on this, so that it's a health day. Wellness day, rather. It was called a wellness day. and we charge a small sum of money. So that's how we raise money. Now, when we had the Zoom program for all these girls this year, we invited Gina Cody, who was the recipient, or who gave the donor of the Concordia University's large sum of money for the School of Engineering. And we had a very good attendance and very good donations came up from that thing. And so we were able to raise a little bit of money there. So this is how we raise money, but we also give back to what we've risen. So this is our donation for the Christmas shoe boxes to the women's shelters. Now, every year there are during Christmas time, the donations are asked from different shelters to help women. So what we do is we collect money ourselves and we donate old shoe boxes if we have them. Most of us have old shoe boxes. And then we get a list of all the things which these women shelters want. And so we collect all different items, we buy them, if we have them disposed at our home, new ones, we use them, but mostly we go and buy them. And then we pack these boxes, wrap up these boxes in beautiful wrapping paper, put a little sticker on it as a donation, as a gift from the ZONTA Club of Montreal, and we go and deliver these boxes. So that is how we give back to the community in different ways. We also now going to have another international project where we want to sponsor some schools or in different parts of the world who are needing funds, or who need different buildings, or who need a reading room, or who need a little computer room, or need some tablets to donate that. So that's under the process of working out. So that's about all I need to tell you about ZONTA from my side. But if you have questions, please make sure to ask me, because I'll be very happy to answer as much as I know, because I've been in ZONTA for a long time, and I'm a old hat with ZONTA. So thank you. Now, how do I get back to you, your view?
Just hit stop.
Okay.
There you go. Stop sharing. Excellent. And right away, we have a question from Rod de Courcy, Ireland. Rod, go ahead. Have to unmute yourself, Rod. Every night.
I'm unmuted. I'm amazed that I have never heard of such a wonderful 100-year-old organization which has such similar aspirations as Rotary. I think your presentation was wonderful. But you talked about your local donation side, but what about the international scholarships? Are they funded from an endowment fund, or is that annual fundraising to do that amazing number of scholarships?
It's an annual fundraising from the different clubs, all the 100 and 1,000 and 100 clubs. Everybody raises funds and donates. And I'm amazed that some clubs in the United States donate like thousands of dollars when they fundraise in different programs they have, during the year, and they fundraise and they donate. That's how, I mean, we don't get any government grants. We don't get any grants from any corporations. It's all from our own money.
Talk to Trudeau, he's giving away money to everything.
Marilyn, you have something to say? Unmute yourself.
Unmute. Yes, I do. I was getting there. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I certainly am a big believer and supporter of violence against women. And I am stunned, although happily, to hear what your mandate is and all of these wonderful things that you're doing. But my stun comes from in such a time in Montreal where violence against women, or just domestic violence, there's children and there's some men as well, is like top of the news. How do we get ZONTA in the news? I haven't heard the name. Well, I hear the name from my friends, but I mean, 15 members doesn't give you a lot of clout.
No, it doesn't. Once upon a time, we were about 50.
Okay, so is your goal to get more members, or?
Yes, Yes, of course, to get more members, so that the more the members you have, the more fundraising you can do, and the more membership fees you could have. So of course, it's a goal. But I think what you're saying is very true, because the problem with domestic violence and not only suicide, but which is much more, the domestic violence has gone up 200% during this pandemic. 200%.
Yes,
During the pandemic.
And there was a stat just last month, I believe, not this month, but last month, where within a month, there were 7 women killed by domestic violence. Like, this is a time, God forbid, but this is a time when, if this is the mandate, how do you go about to do things? Or is it that it's such a small group, you can't possibly be expected to get out there and make some noise?
We are also members of the Montreal Council of Women, which is an umbrella organization of all the federates. So we are, I don't know if you heard of that also either.
Yep.
And I've just become the president of Montreal Council of Women. So that's one of our other mandates, to mobilize all the forces to be able to put things. The Montreal Council is able to make statements, to make resolutions, and to send it to the city of Montreal to do things and put letters in the newspapers. So we can work through them as well, but we can work independently as well, ZONTA.
And so is the—
But we need manpower. We need manpower too.
Yes, exactly. No, I understand that.
A woman power.
Yeah, that too. Is the shoebox program part of the Mulroney shoebox program? Yeah, and so it's done under that guidance, or
no. It's done independently. I think
yes. No, I understand that, but you didn't have it before the Mulroney shoebox. Is my point.
We never heard of that before till I read it in the newspaper. I never even heard of the shoebox project.
Oh,
till about 3 years
I
ago,
have. I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it for years. So
maybe, but we didn't know.
No. I hear you. No issue there. And I mean, I just think that the grants and the scholarships are just wonderful. And I guess the question, because I come from advertising, I guess the question is, how do we raise the awareness? Not we, you. How do you raise the awareness so that the public has the opportunity to contribute to these scholarships and knows who's behind them? I mean, this is fantastic work, and yet I don't see the name in the paper.
No, but what happens is that every time at the awards ceremonies of these schools, I go there, or somebody else from ZONTA goes there, we talk about ZONTA publicly in front of all the parents. So hopefully word gets through.
It's word of mouth. This is Yvonne. It's word of mouth, because that's okay. You were talking about violence against women. Believe it or not, it's a mindset. We get these women out, and they're the ones who go back to the men. It's a mindset, and I know it sounds horrible, and people here on the panel here will want to come over and slap me and says, no, but it's a mindset. It's very, very, very hard to get the women out of those situations. And ZONTA, as Dolly said, it's a mindset. It's word of mouth. As she said, we get our members from people who we have helped, like students and their parents, and it just goes from one school to another school, and it's sort of like an underground thing, because there's nobody who would want to come and interview us and talk about ZONTA and put us on the TV. Even though we've had people like, what's her name, in CBC, we've had them as guest speakers. We hope that when we have our events, pardon me? Deborah Arbeck, we hope that when we have these people, they go back to their world and they talk about us. Marlene Jennings was one of our very first guest speaker when we had our International Women's Day Luncheon. So we just hope that women go and talk about us. That is
Okay,
really
so
the only
in-
way.
I'm
Sorry,
serious about Trudeau. He's an avowed feminist. You'd think that a few $1,000,000 from the federal government would go a long way towards your group.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
But,
know
you know,
that
Put the pressure on it.
has his hand up here.
But,
Nick, would you like to step in?
I
Let's let
just
the
want to
man-
make a comment on
Yeah,
what
one more
Yvonne
there.
said.
Mhm.
You know, what you have to understand, I am one of those victims of domestic violence. So, you know, I put my hand up and I understand the mentality.
Mhm.
And without you being a victim of domestic violence, you do not understand why the
Yes.
women go back.
I've
And
been
they
told that.
all just about go back.
Mhm.
And that is when they need the help. And they go back because their children are threatened, their families are threatened, somebody's going to get killed, and they go back.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that is the time when they need the help.
A lot of the women in the nursing bursary program, they're the ones that we do help them. We give them, because Dolly, remember, they turn up with their little children. And we do understand that. And we do help them after they've left.
So this June Mitchell bursary, which
Mhm.
we have started, June Mitchell herself was a victim of violence, domestic violence. And so she started this program, Women Aware,
Mhm.
and she brings them in, trains them, and sends them back to the community.
Right.
So that is why we really want to support that program. And we give them a scholarship and we give them, support them as well.
Ladies, if you don't mind, I'm going to step in.
Yes,
Mhm.
We have a number of other questions here, and I've put on the chat the website link for ZONTA Montreal,
Mhm.
and I've also put it on for zonta.org. So for those who would like to do a little bit more research here, you can take those and take a good look. Nick, you had something that you'd like to add?
Yeah, no, I wanted to thank Dr. Dastoor for her presentation, and because I wanted to acknowledge I actually work in this field internationally, and in fact I manage a girls leadership and empowerment through education program in Mali in West Africa. So I'm very familiar with the nexus of the topics that you've discussed, and I'll share a link with folks in the chat here. But what I was curious to learn a little bit more about is, because in terms of, like, before your conversation, I was looking at the website and some of the international projects that the organization does globally. What is the Montreal branch's engagement with those international projects? Because, for example, I was looking to see what you did, what the organization is doing in Madagascar is talking about access to education, and then in terms of girl safety and security, which is, again, the project that I'm working on right now is a nexus of ensuring girls are in school and making sure that the school environments are safe once they're there. And we're doing peer-to-peer awareness raising with the girls about menstrual hygiene and health, and also to prevent early child marriage. So I'm curious if you could talk maybe a little bit about that.
No, what we have done, what happens is that there's an international projects, and then the local clubs are supposed to work towards those projects and do parts of it. I mean, some of them do prepare kits to send them for birthing kits. Some of them prepare books and things to send it to the for schools. So there are different aspects of it, different sections of it, which the individual clubs work towards the major whole program, and raise funds. The most important is raise funds, because the international projects are done through either UNICEF or UNESCO or WHO. So we have to fund them to be able to proceed with those projects,
And then does
so
ZONTA provide...
indirectly we work through them,
Okay, because that's what I was going to say is, does then ZONTA provide sort of feet on the ground and for any of these projects and expertise, or?
No, we don't provide feet on the ground, but we provide supervision. Our president or the chair of the service committee visits time to time to see how it is going,
Okay.
And we get reports. We get biannually reports from them, so we know what's happening,
Okay.
All the clubs, this is Yvonne, all the clubs we give international, I think it's a third, Dolly, a third of our fundraising funds goes to international, for the international projects.
Okay.
Are men allowed to be members of ZONTA?
Of course.
There was a time when it was totally a women's club, but in I think about 20 years ago, it became bisexual. Men were allowed to join it because of the United States, the women were not allowed to join. If those women in the United States who were in government positions were not allowed to women-only clubs. So that was, we were forced, and it was a good thing we were forced to. We were forced to open it up to men, and now we have men members, and men have become governors of the thing. One day it may be an international president, may become a male. I don't know, but that's the way it is going.
I have one more question.
Montreal doesn't yet have a male member, and anybody wants to join, you're most welcome to.
Are there any other questions out there? Okay, with that, normally I would ask David Franklin to join us and to give you an official thank you, Dr. Dastoor. But David couldn't make it tonight, so you're going to have to live with me. It always amazes me when we have guest speakers, and not that you've been here before, talking about other stuff, obviously, but it always amazes me how much we learn when we have a guest speaker come and present to us. As Rod said earlier, like, who knew about ZONTA and what it does and how widespread it is, and you made a good point in that Rotary and ZONTA both have the same problem to a certain degree, and that's like, people don't seem to know that we're here. And it's a daunting task. It really is, to get out there and to be known, and to get that critical mass so that you can get stuff done. So I wish you and your club here in Montreal all the best, and we will find ways beyond and above this meeting tonight to let people know about ZONTA and about your club here in Montreal. And we wish you all the best, and just, as they say, go get them, girl.
I'd just like to add in the end that we have 2 annual programs with International Women's Day, and we have the awards night lunch. And so we send out invitations to all. So we will send that out to the Rotary also. So if you guys want to join us and to augment to the people and augment our donations, it will be most helpful.
Excellent. And you have our coordinates, I believe, through Glenn. So when there's something going on there, don't be shy. Let us know what's going on, and we'll do our best to pass it on and to participate in it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much again.